Welcome to Summit Session number 19. My name is Danielle, and I'm the Marketing Director at Adventure Nannies. We are so happy to have you here with us. The views expressed today are those of the guest and do not necessarily represent the views of Adventure Nannies. Today, we'll be talking about stepping up our interview skill set as we work to land that dream job. I am thrilled to share a bit more about our extraordinary presenter, Danny Rosenthal. Danny J Rosenthal is the author behind Nanny ABCs, The Sitter's Handbook, a complete alphabet how-to guide for every child caregiver. And also he's the host of Nanny ABCs Next Step podcast. Danny has worked with children and families for over 15 years, and he's also been recognized for his outstanding performance by Chicago Collegiate Nannies, and his expertise has been featured by the US Nanny Association, Care.com, Nectar, and the prestigious Association of Premier Nanny Agencies. Rosenthal created Nanny ABCs and the Next Step system to give rocket fuel to childcare, to make having the best childcare simpler by providing families, caregivers, and agencies immediately actionable and personalized training with 16 virtual courses, live training, one-on-one sessions, and roundtable Q&As to promptly improve the nanny industry's best practices. Definitely check out nannyabcs.com to learn more about Danny and the incredible work that he's doing. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Danny to the stage.
Unmute. Hey, thanks so much. Wow, I so appreciate that. That was like so generous of you to say it all like that. That was so nice. And yeah, thank you so much for hosting this, Danielle. Adventure Nannies, this was a fantastic opportunity. Well, you know what, let me just share my screen and start this all rolling. So basically, I've done Step Up Your Nanny, Your Childcare Brand before. And that one was all about pre-interviewing, what it takes during the interview, and after the interview, all the things that you can do. And I really wanted to talk about what we're going to talk about today, which is elevating yourself. And it's really my favorite topic in it, but I couldn't do it before because if you don't know the standard parts about interviewing, it's not applicable. Like there's nothing to do there. So I would love to know if you type it in the chat box, like where you are, what you most want to get out of this. So then at the end, we can answer any of your questions. We can make sure that we're covering all the things that are really helpful for you. And if there's anything that you want more information on, we can get to that. So what I did is I created Nanny ABCs. And what Nanny ABCs does is it's for agencies, it's for nannies to become better educated in nannying, on how to do it professionally. So a lot of caregivers are really awesome at the childcare they deliver, but they lack some of those moments of what to do in all of the situations that are really important when you're nannying. So that's the working with parents side of things. So we try to make all of that easier so nannies don't fall backwards into learning all the things that they need to do. Like when I first started nannying, the week before I first started, I had done years of child care before in camp settings, in daycare, and after school programs, but I had never done it in someone's house, just me and the kids. And so the first week before I started, I was wondering, what do I do when I have to go to the bathroom? And I was looking everywhere for the information for it, and I just couldn't find anything. So as I started, I had to figure that all out on my own, and it just wasn't something that I thought, I thought it was crazy that I had to be the one to figure it out myself, because everybody has been in, everyone that's a nanny, like there's been nannies for generations. It's a thing that we shouldn't have to reinvent the wheel on being nannies. So I started writing down all the things that made it easier for me. And then I started working with agencies, helping tell their nannies all the things to make it easier for them. And then all of this just spun into doing Nanny ABCs, which is what we're doing now. And so interviewing is one of those things that are part of it. And like I mentioned before, I had done this an edition before, and that one was about the pre-interviewing, resumes, cover letters, all those things that you need to hype yourself up before you get to the interview. And then it was on the interview itself, the questions that you should have ready for families, what you need to look out for, all those red flags that people hardly ever pay attention to. And then it was what to do after the interview. So all those little correspondence back and forths, how you accept a position, how you say this position's not for me, all of those things. And if you want any of that information, you can just go to www.nannyabcs.com/step-up, and there'll be a little thing, you'll type in your email and it'll just be sent right to you. It's a whole recording just like this is, and it's all there for you. And so that combined with what we're doing today is, well, it'll make you more valuable. So in this, today we're gonna go over my 3 principles to elevation in interviewing. We're gonna go over why this is important, what you're gonna get out of it, who this is for, and unsurprisingly, who this is not for, and all the benefits that you'll find for this. So my 3 principles to elevation in interviewing is Say What You Need to Say is a terrible song. It's by John Mayer, but it's terrible and it's so true at the exact same time. I love John Mayer in general, but that song is terrible. And You Are an Ocean, Not an Island, which there's a song about that, but that has nothing to do with it. It's a good song though, Fastball, one of my favorite bands. And then Your Network Begins with Hello. So those are the 3 things that we're gonna really dive into here today. So why we're doing this, why this is important. Well, for me, I think we're all more successful. When you succeed, we're all doing better. So our industry is invisible. So many people have nannies. Childcare is everywhere. It's all the rage to talk about childcare now, but everyone is always left figuring it out for themselves, what to do, how to do it. Is it the right way to do it? Nobody wants to talk about the things that are really taboo. Like I mentioned, how do you go to the bathroom? No, the information was nowhere to be found, because are you doing it the right way? You're doing it the wrong way? Well, there's just so many things. So when it comes to interviewing, hardly anyone is trained on it. But in the end, your interview is how you get the job. So no matter how great your agency is, no matter how great your resume is, your cover letter, all of these things apply, but they're all just pieces of the puzzle when it comes to interviewing. So what we're gonna talk about is how to highlight those areas where you already shine and how to take those further. So you probably already have a ton of attributes that are amazing about the way that you deliver your childcare. Some of them are probably things that you never even noticed. You know, that could be like how well you communicate with parents. You know, you might be killing it with the kids themselves, like doing an amazing job with children, but like that part with the parents, it's so important. It's so undervalued, but it's actually like the most valued. People just don't realize how important it is. And then this is my roadmap. So this is all the things that I walked backwards into learning how to do it the right way. All the places that I succeed when I do an interview. I love interviewing. I know that that's not true for most people, but it's something that like like right now, I love talking about all of these parts. So, and the last part of why we're doing this today is because one of my core values is overwhelming support. So I love making sure that everybody feels like that they're not just being supported, but it's overwhelming. Like you're getting everything you really need out of it. Yeah, so I just think that's really important. So who this is for? Well, this is for you if you've not been formally trained on interviewing, if you feel stuck, if you want more information on interviewing, if you haven't been able to convey how awesome you are. You want to be more valued. You want to earn more money. You want to get that job that is the one that you've been waiting for. There's going to be many of those jobs, by the way. There's never just going to be one job that's purely amazing. But they're going to come up over and over again. And you deserve to have all of this information. Like I said, they're just, sometimes the resources that are out there are super valuable, but you're not sure which one is the right one for you. At the same time, this is not for everybody. This is not for if you want to be where you already are. Like, congratulations, you're killing it. You're doing awesome. You deserve to be where you are. If you love that, like, you don't need this. And at the same time, if you lack follow through, this is not going to be for you, because you're going to get a lot of information. But if you can't put in the work to do it, and there's a lot of work, if you can't do that, then it's not going to be helpful. And you're going to feel robbed in yourself, because you've learned all of this stuff, but you have no place to put it. You have no where to go with it. And again, with all of that, if you need help with any of that, I love giving overwhelming support. So all you have to do is reach out to me, be like, hey, I'm doing this part of it. I'm not sure how to do this other part of it, whatever, all of those things. Everything we're going over it's simple, but none of it is easy. If you're really doing this, you're going to feel like there's going to be times where you think that it's not worth it, or that it's too hard, and you're wondering if you should keep going with it. But you should. I can't emphasize that enough. Everything that I'm doing here, talking about today, is stuff that I've personally done, and it's gotten me to where I am. So getting to do this, talking to Danielle from Adventure Nannies, like, all of that has been a slow burn buildup to doing all of these other things. So we're going to jump into the benefits of it. It's that you control your career narrative. So what you want your career to be, that's actually totally up to you. You might be looking at your resume and thinking like, this is my career. This is what I've done so far. But what you put on your resume, it's totally up to you. How you phrase it. Phrasing is super key. We're going to build up your interview confidence, hopefully. My confidence level naturally is it's not totally crazy high, but it's enough. It's enough for me, and you can absolutely build up your confidence. And you can get the position you want. You can be worth more. You can be higher valued. Walking into any family and doing the work that you do is tremendously hard, and it truly isn't valued enough, no matter how you're doing it. Families have a hard time. Families don't realize they're executives, and they hire you, and all of a sudden they're now an executive, but they don't generally have the skills to be an executive. So they're not sure how to do all of those things that, like, you would in corporate America. And the corporate world has a lot of things that have worked for thousands of years, and they've built upon all of that. And childcare, like I said at the beginning, it's very isolating, and you feel like you're starting from the ground, and there's really no reason to be starting from the ground when we're doing all of this. So interviews, in essence, are sales. Tom Poland from _𝐬𝐥𝐿, he does webinars. That's all he does, is he teaches people how to do a great webinar. And I've taken one of those, and hopefully, it was enough. But he talks about how sales are what you do when your marketing sucks. So in this situation, your marketing would be your resume, your cover letter, your portfolio. All of these things are the reflections of all of the attributes that you actually are bringing to the table. Like, so what you have in your cover letter or in your resume, that's just one piece of that puzzle, but it's not the actual great work that you do. It's just a representation of it. It's just, some bullet points of it. And then Sam Zapersky from Consulting Success, he talks about how selling talking about yourself, doing all of those things, selling, it doesn't feel good generally. It's hard to do. You feel like there's a lot of pressure to get it right. But really, if you truly feel like you're helping people, it doesn't feel slimy. It's super easy because you have the goods. And that's what this is all about here, is that like you already have the goods, but we can take it a lot further. So interviewing is presenting yourself as the best option for the position someone is offering. And with that, we'll go to my first principle again, which is say what you need to say is a terrible song, but it is true. So in that, you have to tell people in the simplest terms who you are, what you're about. So are you a leader? Are you an adventurer? Do you make things fun? Are you crafty? Are you quick? Are you a care specialist? Are you a teacher? Or are you active? All of these things. What is it that makes you you? And how is that something that they can utilize? It's really hard to figure those things out. It can be really tricky. But you have to look at yourself at a bird's eye view. So once you do like your resume and your cover letter, like that's just a first pass at all of this stuff. And you can look at it again and go, oh, like I'm actually this. And then that becomes like your brand of who you are, how you deliver care. So me, I make like mundane things fun. And I talk about, doing dance parties and playing music, even when we're terrible at it, writing hit songs with kids. Like those are the things that I enjoy doing as a caregiver. And I've made sure that that is at the top of everything that I do. So I have done traveling with families. Is that who I am as a caregiver? No, not really. That's something that I've done. I'm good at that. That's a skill that I have. But is that like my brand? No, my brand is that like I make mundane things fun. So in this, we're making you the chief care officer of a family. We're taking you to the C-suite, as they call it in corporate America, of nannying. How are you being the best at this? So we're doing it. I'm talking about this all through the lens of LinkedIn. This works on every platform. So it works on Facebook. It works on Instagram. I don't know anything about TikTok, but I assume there's some principles there too. I'm using LinkedIn because it has all of these parts, these components to it, which the other platforms, they do pieces of it together. And LinkedIn is where, personally, again, this is a roadmap. So LinkedIn is where I've gotten the most success. It's the easiest to reach out to people on. While it's a social platform, it's really for being professional. And that's what's so important about being a nanny, is being professional, is taking those childcare skills and applying them within a house in a great professional way. So what are like the best practices? So we're going to talk about the pictures that you use, how to make those excellent, the banner, which is again, like that's another picture at the top of your profile. Facebook has those, LinkedIn has those, your headline, the about section, which is super important. A lot of these pieces are all going to be things I'm going to show you like exactly what is in my LinkedIn profile and why it's worked so well for me. So we'll go into it. Picture equals 1,000 words. We all have heard that before. Here's one of my pictures. This used to be on my Google icon. And as I was showing this picture to my fiance last night, I was like showing her like how awesome my slides were. And she was like, I told you to take that picture down off your Google icon. She was like saying to me how she thought it was stupid that I was using this picture as an example when this is a picture that I was using before. And she's the one that told me to take it down. I was like, you're so right, like you usually say in a relationship. You're so right. And I took this down because I didn't know what I was doing when I was using it. I thought that this was a really good picture. It's not a good picture. It shows that I've graduated. It shows that I wore funny glasses when I graduated, and I thought that that was a great idea. And at the time, it was fine. But is it the way that I want to present myself now? It's not at all how I want to present myself now. So pictures are important because they give you a true competitive edge. It's 20 times more profile views your profile will have if you have a picture on it. I'd like to think of this as a dating app, you know, swipe right, swipe left. If you don't like it, swipe right if you do like it. A lot of them, there's no pictures, or they're terrible pictures, and you just swipe left. But maybe that person is amazing. Maybe that is like your profile that people are swiping left on, but it's all of these amazing things. You get more connection requests if you have a photo in the first place. So what makes a good photo? Well, the production does everything. In the film industry, it's called mise en scène, and it's everything that's in the photo. It all adds up. So good lighting, what you're wearing, the background, how you're framed in it. Is it focused? You can take a great photo now from pretty much any phone that you have, and you know, just go walk around and like get a good photo. Go walk around with a friend and have them like take photos of you. Do it every time you feel like you look at your photo of yourself and you go, oh, that is not the one I want to be using. Just keep going, try again. I do it all the time. And I still feel like my photos are like not the best representation of myself. Are they good? Yeah, they're fine. They're more professional than the photo that I'm showing you here. And you want it, again, this photo is a representation of, it's just a reflection of all the attributes you already hold as a caregiver. So it's just that professional essence that you want to be showing. And that, too, your banner. So the banner is at the top of the screen. Here's my banner. And it has a picture of myself in it. It has a picture of my book. It tells you that you can find stuff more about me on Facebook, Instagram, podcast, on Amazon, on Google. Uses my logo. There's little things everywhere, but it's still very clear. I have a motto. You know, at this time, I was using next step is agency rocket fuel. Now I use helping care succeed. I had one way before that. I actually loved it the most, but it wasn't as clear as possible. It wasn't that exact thing of where, like I said, with John Mayer's song, like you really need to say what it is you do. So now I'm like, oh, what I really do is I help care succeed. I can't make someone into the best caregiver ever. I can take someone that's already a really good caregiver and I can give them all those tools that people fall backwards into learning. You can do a great banner just on Canva alone. It's way better to have a banner than to not have a banner, than to have that blank space of like, it's just a weird pattern. And it's kind of like a highlighter of, I didn't fill out my entire profile. You don't want that. You want it to look like you've put an effort into each piece. If you're not a designer, like, don't worry about it. Actually, Canva is going to be great for that because you're going to have all those, it's going to give you designs that are already like, hey, this was done by a designer. You can look good if you just, you plug and chug with what is accurate for you there. Make sure that it fits, keep uploading it until it's like the right parameters where things don't look crazy. And again, this doesn't have to be a thing that takes forever. It can just be something that you have. It completes your profile in a more complete way. It just helps you out. Is this going to be the thing that lands you that amazing job? Maybe. I'm going to go with probably not, but is it going to be helpful? Yeah, it's going to be, you're going to stick out more with having one of these than if you don't have it. right? So then there's the headline, and there's my headline with a more up-to-date banner in it. And the headline is Helping Care Succeed. Nanny ABCs offers the only personalized executive training program for agencies. Let's connect. And it has my time zone. I would absolutely add your time zone to your LinkedIn profile, because that would help when people want to connect with you. You know, it's international. So I have friends in England that I talk with all the time, and syncing up our times is crazy. And we don't totally always remember where each other lives. So it's really helpful when I just have it like on there and you can just see it. Your headline is obviously going to be probably more caregiver driven. And that's where you're going to talk about the things that make what your brand is in caregiving, right? So if you're crafty, you're going to say how like something about how crafts make caregiving more fun or easier, or that there's benefits to using crafts in your caregiving. Is it going to be 100% about you being crafty? Probably not, but you'll have actually other opportunities to talk more about that. But you just want to give people a really good snippet and highlight something about you there. So every piece to this, you should use as a highlighter and not as a copy and paste part. So the part that's in your banner, the part that's in your about section, and the part that's in your headline should all be little highlighters to things that give you another opportunity to say something. So you don't just want to be repeating yourself over and over again. You want every piece to add up to more. So in the about section, you establish who you are. You think this is like the sales pitch of a book. So when you flip over the book and it says why you should read this and who thinks it's amazing, you add all those things into your about section. Here's my about section actually goes longer than this. This is just a piece of it, but we talk about how Nanny ABCs has three key breakthroughs that makes it different from other training programs for nannies. And you also have things. So, you know, you can use pretty much that very same thing of like, what are three key aspects about your caregiving that makes it unique to you? What are those things that you do? You know, we have on here, I have, what do we do at Nanny ABCs? Well, we develop a talent pool, create loyalty from families and caregivers, place a higher quality caregiver faster, give your agency back hours a week for you to grow. These are all things that you can have in your profile to the way that it helps you. So what is it that you do? You know, you help children get to their milestones, you know, I don't know, in that but it's like you're really helping children do certain things. What is that best part of childcare that you love talking about? Like that's where you're an expert in. Those are the pieces that you should highlight. So for me, my expertise is in getting children to be less picky eaters, because I, time and time again, as I was a nanny, was like, oh, this child's a picky eater. And as a caregiver, I'm making them like lunch or dinner or breakfast sometimes. And if they were too picky, like it was not good for me. So I would have to like bring them back into being like better eaters, right? So that was one of my strengths, and that would absolutely be in my about profile. So it's what we are, the difference of us versus them, what value we have, what we do, and how we do it. Products that are really good tell you the value of them, and bad products tell you what they do. And I think of that with like those late night things that tell you like this machine makes an egg in 5 minutes. And you're like, that's great. That's exactly what it does. But the other version of that would be like, get 5 minutes back in your morning when you use this machine and you go, oh, I might actually need that. You know, that's why you have a coffee maker instead of like every day you go to Dunkin' Donuts or Starbucks to get your coffee. It's because this one does it for you here. It makes everything faster. Or, you know, you go on the Starbucks app and they're like, this app makes it, you know, faster. You just walk in and grab the thing that you already ordered. So you want to go with the value over what it does, right? So in that Starbucks app, the app is like, it gets it, you can order things now, right? But the value is you have it there when you need it, right? 5, accomplishments. So there's an accomplishment section in LinkedIn, and that's where you can talk about publications, patents, courses that you've taken, the honors that have been bestowed upon you. It's your chance to brag about all of these things. And in mine, it has how I wrote an article for Nectar about sunscreen and babies. And you know, can you put sunscreen on your child that's less than 4 months old? Which it took me writing that before I was like, oh, maybe not. And so there's a lot to that answer. And that's so what's cool about this is that these are all clickable. So you can, you know, if you click on the sunscreen one, it'll take you to my article on sunscreen. It'll take you to my book on Amazon. It'll take you to where I'm used in a care.com article. It has all of these things and it just shows you off right there. And what's great is people want all of these things from you. So if you're like, well, I didn't write a book, Danny. I've never been published in any way. There's ample opportunities for you to do this. Like I said, like I didn't start, here I am, where I am. I had to build all of this up, right? So I did that by reaching out to parent blogs. I reached out to the International Nanny Association. I was like, can I do a seminar for you? I just kept reaching out and building upon all of those things. And then when you do one, you get the next one easier. So even the New York Times has a section on their website for you to submit an article. Like people want your articles. They want the content. And if you do it for them, that helps them out. They want it. And so you have that ability to just give them the things. So with that, again, think about like where you're an expert or what you love talking about in childcare. On my podcast, I have anyone that wants to be on it. I basically can find a reason to put them on the podcast. I go, what is that thing that you love talking about when we're talking about childcare? And so they start telling me about how sleep is so important. And I go, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about then, because you're an expert there. Even if nobody else knows you're an expert there. Experience, you know, this is like resume stuff. Put your most up-to-date thing at the top, work backwards from there of your least up-to-date thing. The reason you actually probably already know that you should do that on a resume, but you probably don't know why. And that's because you're probably going to have better credentials more currently than when you started. So you don't want to highlight those. Those are the first things you want people to see. Take the things off of your resume that have nothing to do with caregiving. So if you worked at T-Mobile for a month or something like that, unless you can be like, that really helped me work with communicating with people, don't put that on there. That's just taking away from like what you want to be selling, which is you're an amazing caregiver and here's why. Like, oh, these people wanted me, this family, I worked with this family, in this one we did all of these things, I worked with kids this age to that age. All of these things are great. Articles. So one of my favorite things about LinkedIn that isn't a possibility on these other sites is you can write an article straight on LinkedIn. It's one of those things that you click on and it's like make a post, make an article, add a photo. There's things like that. And same as I was saying before about how I would write articles and I'd be like, hey, do you want this article? And they'd go, yeah. Or sometimes they'd be like, no. but it doesn't matter, because you just take that article and you give it to somebody else that does want it until you have it posted. Word to the wise, if you want an article, I would reach out to the US Nanny Association. They always want to help you out. They want to raise your profile, and they want the people that are a part of their association to get better and more current information. So write an article, send it to them. Until then, write an article on LinkedIn. And what's really cool about this is that these show up in Google. So I would write these articles, and if you would Google my name, you'll get the articles that I wrote. So I wrote the one on where I talked with the babysitter guru, and it was the top 10 things all child caregivers need to know about babysitting. I wrote the one for Nectar on sunscreen, and that comes up because what I would do is I would give these articles to other people, and then I would do like a little snippet, and I would put that into my LinkedIn as an article, and I'd take that, and we'll see in a second that let me just skip over to the messaging. And the messaging is where I would take that article, I put a link to that article in a message to one of my connections, and I'd say, hey, I was just thinking about you. I wrote this article. I thought maybe it might be valuable to you. And I'd send that. So then these people would get that connection with me. They'd get that I was thinking about them, and they would get some information that might be really helpful to what they're doing. So backing up the skills are part of like what proves that you're knowledgeable, and you can take tests on LinkedIn. You can get people to endorse you. You don't have to get any of this stuff out of the blue. The best thing you can do is take all of the wonderful resources you have and get people to help you out. Get people to say like, yeah, you'll reach out to someone. You'd be like, hey, Danny, is there is there a trait that you ever thought, that I'm particularly good at? And if you think there is one, could you like post it on my LinkedIn? I'd be like, yeah. And I'd be like, so-and-so is really great at communicating. I endorse that skill that they have with them. There's all of these like little things. And again, these are all just like highlighter moments for you. Connections, don't be shy in anywhere. So that's reaching out to the US Nanny Association, to INA, to me, to Danielle, to anyone that you can think of on Instagram. I became friends with like who I think are like the top tier Instagram nannies. And I did that, and we're friends now for real because I just reached out to them and I was like, hey, I'd love to know more about you or what you're doing, or I created a podcast, and I'd be like, I'd love to have you on my podcast. And they'd be like, yeah, that's such a great, thank you. And we became friends for real. But it seems intimidating to reach out to people sometimes when you don't know them. But it's absolutely worth it. And you're only an email or a connection away from them. You should absolutely just do it. Like, who knows where they could help you out? So like I mentioned with the messaging, there's an example of a article I wrote and me sending it to someone. I wrote, thinking of you, wishing you the best. And then I wrote this article on what I learned as a caregiver for the 1%, which was with Samantha Vahi, who I interviewed for the podcast. So I took all of these things and I compound them upon themselves, you'll see. So I would do a podcast interview. I'd take that, I'd write into an article, and then I would take that and I'd send it to people to let people know I'm doing good things. The best thing you can do is reflect all that stuff off to you. You're an ocean, not an island. And so what do we mean by that is that 80% of the oceans are unexplored, unmapped, and unknown. And what I mean there is that you probably already have a bunch of attributes that are amazing and things that you just don't ever share. So like, you want to go deep. I never worked. I cultivated my skills. I developed how I do this. What have you done in your child caregiving that's something that somebody might like? I taught piano to the kids. We had a section of the day where I taught pianos. I organized and hosted birthday parties, which was totally out of my wheelhouse, but I made it happen. Now I can be like, oh yeah, you have a birthday party? Totally know what to do. All of these things that you're undervaluing. There's just a lot of attributes you already have that you're not presenting in a way, or thinking that they're just not valuable enough to tell someone that you do. Everything you do, you should just be reflecting it back to the world, being like, hey, I did this, I'm doing this. All of these things, you just keep going with all of it. Your network begins at hello. And like I mentioned, that's everything. That's how I connected with so many people. We're really talking about elevation here. So it's the foundation is doing the action. Thinking about things only gets you so far. You really just have to start doing it, even if you're nervous about doing it. Like, is that email you're going to send going to have all the right wording? Is it going to mean exactly the right thing? If you're uncertain about it, that's probably pretty good. Just send it. Don't worry too much about it. Just go for it more often than not. So in elevating yourself, like, do those things that you do. Don't add in things to your life that you know you're not capable of continuing. You want to do them, you want to connect with people, and then you want to share those things back at them, right? So, reach out to someone that has a podcast and be like, hey, can I be on your podcast? This is what I like talking about. If you like being on Instagram, you can use that for your work. You write down 3 tips. Then you take that Instagram and you send it to some of your friends and you say like, hey, just wanted you to know, like, here's 3 tips that I thought of. Maybe you could use them. Clubhouse is another app where it's kind of like a radio show. And do that if you love talking. Like, if you love doing all of these things, do that part that you love and expand it into your career. So like, if you like volunteering, go volunteer for anything really. Volunteering is great, but you can volunteer to work with associations. You can volunteer to work. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and I just want you to know that you can do all of them. So there's a picture of my book, and that was totally something that I did because I thought it was valuable to the world at large. But that's what started everything that I do. Because I took all of that time to start a book, I could send it to agencies and I could go, hey, do you want me to do something with your caregivers? I created this webinar on elevating your interviewing skills. Would you like me to do that? And they go, oh, he already wrote a book, which even, I really hate to say it like this, but even if my book was total trash, it means that I spent time writing an entire book, and that means something to people, that you put in that time and effort. Hopefully it's not trash. There's parts of it where I go, oh, that's not the way I would handle that anymore. But I put in the effort, and that really does mean something. So you should absolutely put in some effort in somewhere that you're already loving to put effort into things. Like I said, associations, you can do speaking engagements, you can do articles, you can do have positions on associations, you can be on the board, you can have a podcast, you can be on a podcast, you can send articles to mom groups, magazines, whatever it is that you do, just go for that. Touch points. What I mean in touch points is that's those connections. So when you have those connections, you have to keep evolving them. You don't want to just be like, I don't even know what you don't want to be like. But you want to be reaching out to people, and it takes 8 connections. They say, some people say up to 16, probably people say more, where people start being like, oh yeah, you're so-and-so, and that's good. And so all those things that we do, right? So let's pretend you're on my podcast, and then you take that and you put that on Instagram that you're on a podcast. And then you take that image that you have on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and you send it to people that you're friends with on LinkedIn. And those are all touch points that you're having. So those are like low-end touch points of just a post, all the way up to like a one-on-one meeting in person. That's kind of like, actually, Danielle and I, we had a lot of touch points. We started connecting on LinkedIn, then we had a meeting together, then we met in person at an INA conference. And So like we continue that. All of these are just like touch points where we keep going together, and you can do, you know, any of those. You think low to high. High touch points are the best, but you probably don't, you can't just start with a high touch point, right? So you got to go in slow from there. I added a picture of a book that I really love, and it's all about touch points, and it's How to Get a Meeting with Anyone, and which explains this next picture, which is me and Kenny Loggins. And if you're too young, you have no idea who Kenny Loggins is, or if you don't like certain music, you probably don't care. But Kenny Loggins is an idol of mine, and I got to have lunch with him, and it's just, I'm just trying to empower you, and you can do all of those things. You can meet anyone. It's who you want to meet, and it's small steps, and they build up from there. And so like you can just do it. And I really encourage you to do all of that stuff. So here's an actual, here's what I actually reach out to people with. So you can use this. I write, "Hi, I've been working in childcare for 15 years. After writing the Sitter's Handbook, I created Nanny ABCs, a caregiver educational program for agencies. It would be great to connect with you as we both work in the same industry." And that's when people go, I'll make that connection. And they might not ever write anything back to me, but now I have them. They're a connection of mine. So I can take that article I wrote, send it to them and be like, "Hey, I was thinking of you. Maybe this is something that's helpful for you." So all of these things, they just keep building and building on top of each other. Assistance is, there's plenty of people that want to help you. If you need help writing a resume, there's people that will help write your resume. There's people that will help you build a portfolio. There's people for everything. So like that part, that puzzle piece that you're missing, you can absolutely find someone that's going to help you with all of that stuff. That's absolutely what I do. So if you reach out to me, you know, I would love to help you with any of that stuff. Like I would just do it because I want you to succeed. You're already here. This is our really low touch point. You can make it a super high touch point. I want you to think about marathons and half marathons. They're both running. They both take training, but a marathon is twice as long as a half marathon. And that's because you have put in more preparation, you're executing at a higher level, and you're delivering more. So just think about more is more, and it really is more. So yeah, I don't want to elaborate too much on that because I feel like that could be craziness. But so here's some things to make this immediately applicable to you, which is my favorite type of thing. You should write down what it is you want. What are you looking for in your career? What are you looking for in your life? Will these things match up? You know, so do you want more life balance, right? The job you have now as a caregiver is too much, it's too overwhelming. That's not fitting in with your life. So your next job, you're gonna wanna make sure that it's less hours. Or maybe the other way around. Maybe you want more hours because childcare giving is like that much to you. You have more time to give, all of these things. Then create a plan. So that could be like, I gotta update my care.com. I gotta write a new resume. And then you start putting those into action. You just start doing them. Again, all these things take a lot of drafts. Just keep doing them. Do the tasks that will advance you the furthest. I talk about this in the first step up. There's a Petro principle. It's 80% of your time is going to be spent doing things that are going to get you nowhere. 20% of your time is tasks that can get you really far. So that would be like writing that article. Is it going to help you out? Absolutely. It's going to bring you to all those next steps. Keep going even when it's hard, and be professional the whole time. Do whatever you can to be professional. Always do that. So that's this in a quick jiffy. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
That was amazing. Danny, thank you so much. You are incredible. So I wanted to go ahead and jump into the Q&A because we've got a lot of people that have questions. If you have a question and you want to throw it into the chat box, y'all please feel free to do that. But I did want to start out with our first question here. Let me scroll up. We had an amazing question from Catherine, and Catherine was asking, who should we prioritize in our connections on LinkedIn, professional organizations or potential employers?
Oh, I would say anyone, the one that you feel the most comfortable reaching out to first, do that one first. You should just build up your confidence in all of that. You're going to get better as you do it. you're never going to make a mistake that you can't fix. So if you feel like there's people on here that in my LinkedIn that I've reached out to and I've never heard back from, and those are the people that I want to talk to the most. Sometimes they've connected with me, they've never responded to any of my things. It doesn't matter. You just keep going from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think especially, you know, coming from kind of the agency side of things, I will say, you know, it's been really cool to listen to you, Danny, talk about the way that folks can set up their LinkedIn to be really representative of the work that they're doing. And I do want to encourage everyone that, you know, when you're applying for jobs, whether it's with agencies or with private families, in this day and age, you are going to get researched and Googled to the max. So as you're kind of building out your social media profile or your digital footprint, as I call it, I think it really makes sense to be mindful of the image that you're projecting. And someone in the chat had a question, you know, should I have a separate internet presence for caregiving? And my answer is always yes. I really recommend privatizing, or at least being really mindful of what your personal accounts are showing, because not only will the recruitment team of any reputable agency be reviewing every place that you appear online, but the prospective families will absolutely be searching that. So, you know, you really want to be mindful of, you know, what you're showing on the internet publicly. And then also, as you're developing your brand as an incredible childcare provider, you really want to think about it the way that a business would think about it. You know, like, I'm going to make myself really appear in the best possible light because I am amazing and I want folks to see that. And so I'm going to be really purposeful about crafting that messaging across all of these platforms, from LinkedIn to Facebook to Instagram to TikTok. There's amazing content creators across all of those platforms. And part of the way that they're able to land those incredible jobs is being really mindful of that, that presentation. Catherine, I see your hand up. I'd love to hear from you.
Thank you. I rarely use Zoom because I'm so in person. But my question is, you talked, Danny, about our attributes versus our brand. And I'm wondering how we can navigate combining the two in our interviews while also making sure that we're staying true to who we are. So for example, I work with lots of families who have children who might have some emotional regulation problems, and I help them to calm down. How do I make sure that I am staying true to my brand while not diving too much into specifics about how I do my job?
Yeah, I think you should give a little bit of, so like for me, I talk about interviewing. I have a course on interviewing. I'm giving you some of the insights that are just straight from that. It's not the whole thing, but that's because it's really long. But I really want you to succeed in all of this stuff. I think that, you know, it brings it all much further. It makes us all look better. So I know that like, you can't give too much away in reality. It's going to make people want to work with you more. And like, if you give them the information, it's not going to necessarily mean that they're going to do it, or that they're going to be like, oh, I can do it on my own, I don't need her. They're going to think like, oh, she's into doing it. Is that answering it? I saw you go.
I guess my question is more, how do I'm not worried about anyone stealing my techniques. I guess that's not, it's more, how do I go into that interview and make sure that I'm being a whole person rather than just those, you know, individual skills that I have that I feel make me a great caregiver. How do I be that whole person? And I don't know if there's a singular answer to that.
No, I think you're going to kill it, because I think you're already doing it right now. I can already tell just the way that you're speaking that you're a complete person. There's not just one piece of you. You're thinking about a lot of things. Like, that tells me a lot about you. If I was a parent looking for a caregiver, I'd be like, oh, she's like actually like really thinking about this position. She wants to make sure that we're connecting in the right way. The more questions you ask, the better it's going to be. But you really just need to be cognizant about like that fit of like, is it what you're looking for? I know that like that is a really interesting, and I think like you're right, there's not just like one answer to it, but you really want to not skimp over like telling people as clearly like what you're really good at, because people really need it like hit home, like they just do. So now I'm gonna remember the things that you're good at right now, but if you brought it up like 12 more times, like I would be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna remember that for sure, because these families are gonna talk to a bunch of caregivers and they're gonna be like, who's the one with really good with like behavioral issues? Because none of these other people, maybe they will, maybe they won't, but like they're not, you know, that's going to be a strong piece of you. So that thing that you're really good at, you want that to shine for sure.
Yeah. I think that's such a great perspective. And one thing that I would also encourage you, Catherine, just from like the agency side of helping folks interview, which again, I would encourage everybody to head to nannyabcs.com to learn more about the courses that Danny has, where a lot of these specifics are laid out in more kind of deeper understanding. But one thing that I would say, Catherine, is you having this incredible ability to work with children who are learning how to emotionally regulate or who have different situations that make it difficult for them to do that. I would head to the Instagram account, Big Little Feelings, which you probably already know about. But so look at some of the ways that they talk about that language that they use to get that messaging across. And I would use some of that verbiage to communicate to prospective families the way that you do the work you do. So I would talk about the skills that you have, which are incredible, and use some of the verbiage from other folks who are really successful in that specific niche, and talk about, you know what, I can't speak specifically about families I've worked for in the past because I'm so respectful of privacy of other people, of course, but I can tell you that I've worked with children who were struggling with XYZ, and I was able to use these techniques to really help them get from point A to point B. And this is the amazing impact it had on the family. And when you give prospective parents that sort of bigger picture of saying like, oh, it's not just I help kids when they're having tantrums, it's a much more valuable thing. I think that's kind of what Danny was saying about, rather than just looking at interviews as an opportunity to list your skill set, look at it as an opportunity to communicate the value that you bring into that role, because the value that you're talking about is literally priceless. But just saying I help kids kind of chill out when they're freaking out, that doesn't sound quite as incredible as what you really are doing, which is making the entire tone of the home different. So I don't know if that's helpful.
That's so helpful. Thank you both. That's really helpful for me to connect what I do individually with the larger caregiving community and how we all work together to make sure that kids are just doing well. Thank you so much for answering my questions.
Oh, yeah. Danny, you are brilliant. It has just been so incredible to have the opportunity to learn from you. And honestly, I want to take every single course on your website, and I'm not joking. I checked it out multiple times, and every time I go to that website, I'm just like, ooh, I want to sign up for that one. I want that one. So I really encourage everyone to go check that out. Does anyone else have any questions that they wanted to bring up before we wrap up here? All right. So one last thing I wanted to ask you, Danny, is, what is one thing right now that if you wanted to tell somebody, what could I do? If I had an interview on Monday, what is one thing that I should really be taking away from this? Is just one tip that I could work on to make my interviewing better?
Yeah, I think you should think about who you are as a caregiver and how those skills you have translate into value for the house. You had just mentioned it, Catherine, amazingly eloquently, of like that you make the house calmer, or that you help your children to be able to regulate their moods in the future so that they don't have these type of outbursts, or they learn these tools. It's much more than just fixing that one time. It's a whole change that you're bringing to, but that could be in anything. So like, what is it that you really do, and what is the value of that? That can take a long time to figure out what the value is of the skills that you do. I know for me, it takes a long time to sometimes be like, that's what it is, but like, how does that really help people? But talk through it with someone. Talk to me about it. Like, email me at danny@nannyabcs.com. Like, I just love talking to people. I love making all of this stuff easier. I think there's just not enough resources out there. So if you feel like talking with me, absolutely just do it. Just reach out to me.
Awesome. Danny, you are so phenomenal as a human. And I think one of the things that just to speak to like how successful you have become because of the hard work you've done, I can just say from my perspective, being on the receiving end of Danny reaching out to me, the thing that immediately stuck out is your heart. And I think one of the things that we can learn from you and from this session is how important it is to really, like Catherine was saying, bring your whole self to that interview. Bring this sort of idea that you're leading with a genuine sense of who you are, lead with your heart. So if you're really nervous about an interview and you're feeling a little bit anxious about something, I think it's okay to just really be honest and say, you know what, I'm really excited about having the opportunity to meet with you today. I am feeling a little bit anxious, but I really just want you to know this is why childcare is so important to me. This is why I really care about the work that I'm doing. And allow that level of heart and vulnerability to be the baseline for you sharing your value that you bring to these roles. And really consider that, prospective families are allowing you to care for the most valuable, humans in their life. And it makes so much sense to really show them a piece of who you are as a human. And so by kind of learning how to speak about the value of what you're doing versus just, I'll change the diapers and I will give them a bottle. And it's like, well, of course you will. But the things that you're doing, you can learn to speak about it in a way that really shows families the value of it. That's so much deeper than just a task. And I think as we continue to really optimize the way that we interview, so much of it really centers back to showing people who we are, what our heart is like, and the way that we are as humans, the impact that we want to make. And as you kind of work on trying to learn how I can speak to my skills or my strengths, sometimes it's helpful to just ask a really trusted friend and say, here's what I've got listed on my resume of what what my skills are. Can you help me talk about this in a different way that sounds a little bit more, braggy? Because it's difficult to brag on yourself. But if you have somebody that really cares for you and you show them, these are the things that I've got on my resume, how else would you, present this? You'll find that people that know you will have really amazing feedback to say, oh, Catherine, you're so good at this. Here's how I would speak about this. So yeah, I just want to say thank you so much, Danny, for leading with your heart and for the way that you reached out to us at Adventure Nannies. You are doing so much incredible work for this industry. And I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be here today, to put together such a beautiful presentation. And we are just so, so appreciative of you. So thank you, Danny.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, the pleasure is all ours. And so I wanted to just let everybody know, as Danny mentioned, he's got even more amazing courses and knowledge. This presentation was just like the very, very tip of the iceberg in terms of the knowledge that Danny has to share, both through his long-term experience in the industry and the ways that he's really worked to build up his own professional development. So I would encourage you to go to nannyabcs.com to learn more about the wonderful coaching and courses that are available there for you. There's so many resources. And then also be sure to follow them on social media. I love to see the things that Danny's posting. I learn so much all the time from Danny. So please take the time to go check them out and follow them. If you've got any questions for us at Adventure Nannies, please feel free to email me, Danielle@adventurenannies.com, or check us out on social media, DM us on Facebook, Instagram, and I will be the one responding to you there. So it'll be just like a direct line to me if you've got any questions. And thank you so much again, Danny. I wanted to let everybody know, please mark your calendars. Our next summit session in December, we're going to be hearing from the brilliantly talented Sarah Stewart, also known as the Modern Nanny on Instagram. Sarah is really incredible about teaching boundaries and how to really care for yourself in this industry that can be really difficult because you're providing so much care for others. So we look forward to that in December. Thank you so much from all of us at Adventure Nannies, and I hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.